Hello there. Thank you for joining me here on Alyssa Jean's Reviews. This is my live stream review of The Wheel of Time, Season 1, Episode 6, The Flame of Tar Valon. Hold on just a second. Just checking, just making sure my my mic is not muted. I have done a couple live streams lately where I jump on and then I find out my mic is muted and I've been talking for a minute with no sound, but that's not the case now. Um, so it's a little bit late, this review, and I clearly didn't have time to do a pre-recorded video. There's too many goddamn shows to watch right now. There's so many shows, and I have like a life outside of sitting around watching shows all the time. I have other things to do, like, go to work and stuff. So just don't have a lot of time for all these reviews. So this one's a little late, and of course it is a live stream. Let's get into the review. I got to start with a spoiler warning. If you haven't seen up through this episode, then you should not have clicked on this review. So episode 6, Flame of Tar Valon, my overall thoughts. I like this episode. It was interesting. It was a very interesting character piece for both Moraine and the new character that we get, Swan, or the Amaranth Seat. It was pretty much dominated by that storyline. We barely get any of the other characters, but I was okay with that. I was really interested in all of the politics of the Aes Sedai. That was all fascinating to me. So I did like this episode. I think that it was also kind of a table-setting episode. We're kind of setting the table for the final 2 episodes for the stretch run of this season, but they did it in an interesting way. I have a few little nits to pick throughout this episode, but I think probably the biggest issue I have with this episode would be that it fits into the biggest issue that I have, I think, with season 1 is that the pacing is a little wonky in this season. It just feels a little off, but hopefully that is something that they can fix in season 2, because overall I kind of really do enjoy the season quite a lot. I'm enjoying myself with the show. So let's get into the details. Hello. First of all, before I get into the details, just want to take a quick second to acknowledge the live chat. I'm not going to do this all throughout the review because I want to get my review out and say the things that I need to say so that people who watch this in the archives don't have to watch me constantly stopping to chat with people. But I do want to take a quick moment just to say hello to Brandon Hells, who's joined me in the chat and says happy TOD, which I don't know what that means. You might have to explain what that means. But good to see you, Brandon. Okay, so let's get into the episode. So we get this opening, this cold opening. And it's really funny because I watched 2 shows on Amazon Prime that premiered yesterday evening. And both on Amazon Prime. And I watched them back to back. And The Expanse Season 6, Episode 1 being the other show that I watched. And they both had these cold openings. So I was like, what the hell does this have to do with anything? Why does every show I'm watching have these weird cold openings that seem to have absolutely nothing to do with anything? But in this case, we do actually find out what it has to do with things by the end of this episode, as we are getting a flashback of our new character, Swan, who's the Amaranth Seat, and we're getting to see her when she's a kid, when she's first developing her powers and going off to join the Aes Sedai. And while I kind of, it's not a bad scene. It's kind of an interesting scene. I do have to ask the question, does this add to the story? And did it need to be there? And the answer I come to is no, on both accounts. Like, I don't know what it added to the story or the character. And I'm trying to imagine an episode where that scene was cut out entirely. We didn't see it at all. Do we lose anything? Do we lose any understanding of that character? Do we lose anything from this episode? No, not at all. Like the episode stands just fine without that scene. So it didn't need to be there. As nice of a little scene as it was really extraneous. We did not need it. We could have just gotten the character as an adult, and that's all we really needed. So then we get into the episode after the credits, where our 3 Aes Sedai, surviving Aes Sedai who have brought in Loghain, are now facing the Amaran seat. And by the way, I do have to say I loved how Egwene later in the episode points out the fact that the person in the throne have the same name. She's like, why is that? That's dumb. And I'm like, I know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I assume that's something that's coming out of the book. So probably got to blame Robert Jordan for that one. But it is kind of weird. Anyways, so at first it looks like she's going to punish, I think Leandra is her name, the red woman who has the biggest RBF I've ever seen in my life, resting bitch face. And she's also is a complete bitch. And then when she's about to get in trouble, she turns around and throws Moiraine under the bus. Now, it's interesting, that seems to get her off entirely. Like, she's not in trouble anymore all of a sudden, because at first, the Amaran seat said, oh, well, I'm going to decide your punishment by tomorrow, and then they don't. Like, she just lets her go. So it's kind of dumb. But as I'm watching this scene, I'm thinking Moiraine's in deep doo-doo. And they had kind of set the precedent in the previous episodes. They talked about the Amaran seat and how she really doesn't like Moiraine. They don't get along. I think someone even at one point proposed the idea to Moiraine of maybe like her becoming the new Amaran seat and like overthrowing the current one. And they just like, you know, she doesn't like you very much and all this stuff. And they really played into that in this scene. And I bought it. I was like, oh my God, how's she going to get out of this? She's in big trouble. I completely bought it, hook, line, and sinker. But it turns out that whole thing was just a front. They have to pretend to be that way. And she had to pretend to react to Alyandra's accusations. She had to take them seriously because people would get suspicious if she didn't. And it turns out they're lovers. And I didn't see that coming, but I think that's pretty awesome. But not only are they lovers, but they are in on it. She's in on it. Like, it's actually the two of them who planned this whole thing with her going around, you know, trying to find the Dragon Reborn and not telling anyone else. So even Moiraine's fellow Blue Aja, or her fellow Blue Aes Sedai, the Blue Aja, well, you know what I'm trying to say. They are like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why won't you tell anyone? And it turns out there is one other person who is in on it, and it is her lover, the Amaran seat. And I loved this twist, and I honestly did not see it coming. And we get to see, you know, who this character is really. And I guess you could say, you know, it does connect more with the young girl we see at the beginning. I still don't think we needed that scene personally, but whatever. She sentences her, or she tells her she's going to get a sentencing the next day. And meanwhile, Moiraine gets to go around and visit the other characters. We get the discovery that Matt is not necessarily a male channeler. I mean, he still could be, but that's not what the issue was. It's just that he took that stupid knife, and I kind of was like, duh, like I should have realized that. I was falling for that too. I was like, well, Matt's obviously going to channel at some point. He's clearly a male channeler, but this is just an evil knife that he took. And he still may be a male channeler. I don't know what the deal is with the end of this episode with him, but I'll get to that. Yeah, she cures Matt. Rand, of course, doesn't want her to at first. He's afraid of the Aes Sedai. He thinks she's going to kill them or whatever. And I think with good reason. I think they have good reason not to trust her. And then, you know, he ends up thanking her after she saves Matt. Then Moiraine goes and finds Egwene and Perrin, who have made their way into town. This is a nit that I have to pick. I didn't really understand why Moraine, when Egwene asks where Rand is, Moraine lies. Well, not the lies, but does the truth that you hear is not the truth that you hear is not necessarily the truth. I mean, or whatever. The kind of twisting of the truth. She does that whole thing where she's like, "Oh, I have spies everywhere, and I have it in good faith that they're alive," which is technically true, but it's omitting the fact that she just saw them in the other scene, and I don't understand that deception there, especially since she was planning to reunite them very shortly thereafter. By the end of the episode, they're reunited. So why did she have to deceive Egwene in that scene? I don't know. She's like, no, sorry, you gotta wait till the end of this episode, so I can't tell you he's alive. It was just weird. I didn't really get that. But I did find it interesting that Egwene tells Moraine about the whole Perrin and the wolf thing, and Egwene is like, Moraine tells Egwene that, don't tell anyone about this. And at first I was like, oh, she knows what the wolf thing is, but she doesn't. It turns out she just doesn't want anyone to know about anything unusual like that. This could be related to him being the Dragon Reborn or could not. But it is too suspicious. She doesn't want anyone else to catch wind of that, because that could be bad news for Perrin. So there's that. Perrin doesn't really have much to do in this episode. He just kind of lays around. I feel like he's kind of an underused character, honestly, so far. I still just really have a strong dislike for that whole scene with the whole 2 episodes they spent with the Tinkers. I just didn't really see much point in that. And but anyways, so we get to these scenes, and then also wrapped up in that is the reveal that Moraine and Swan are lovers. We also get some reunions with Nynaeve, and then Nynaeve and Egwene are taken before the Amyrlin seat, I just found this whole thing interesting, actually. So first of all, I found it interesting that there's this secret side to the Amyrlin seat, and Egwene and Nynaeve are seeing it, but they don't realize that that's not really her public face. That's not what everyone else sees. And I believe they're just told to keep this totally secret. But we also start getting the introductions of the ideas of, okay, we're going to go in this magical transporter thing that we wish we had in episode 1. I get it. It's probably only in certain locations. You can't just do that anywhere. I get it. And we're going to go to the Eye of the World. And whoever the Dragon Reborn is going to have to defeat the Dark One while he's in his weakest state. And what about the other 4? Yeah, probably certain death for them. And Moraine doesn't exactly tell them that later on. But this is interesting. And it's interesting that Nynaeve ends up going along with this. I don't know if they really developed why she agreed to go along from her standpoint. She just wanted to be with her friends. I don't know. Then Moraine tells the Amyrlin seat that, she basically dictates her own punishment, which was cool. She's like, well, you have to just exile me. That's what the punishment has to be. It's a really good love story. Especially for just only seeing this in one episode and only meeting this character in this one episode, I thought it was a very powerful love story. She's like, well, it sucks, but I gotta let you go. And then we have this whole scene with the ceremony, and I'll be honest, I fell asleep, and not because it was boring, but just because it was late at night, and I'm watching too many goddamn shows. And I got too much work to do, but so I missed the whole thing. But I did see the Star Trek ending where they did the whole Klingon thing where they all turned their backs. I'm sure that wasn't originated in Star Trek. That's probably some old tradition from somewhere, but I know it from Star Trek. The Klingons doing that to Worf when he was disaccommodated. Yeah, and when I think about it as I'm describing this episode, there's really not a lot of action in this episode. There's really a lot of table setting. Then they all kind of meet up at the magical transporter thing, and I don't really get why Lampier, that's his name, the Ogier, is going with them. Because he's in the books with them, I guess. But I don't know. I loved his appearance in the previous week's episode. This week, he just seems like he's there. He doesn't really have much to say, and it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for him to go with them. But he's in the book, so he's gonna go with them. And I did really love seeing the reunion of these characters again. That was very nice. Seeing that Matt is all better now, and seeing him reunite with Perrin and Brandon and Egwene, that was all cool. I feel like these characters weren't together enough for the show, and I realized they do separate in the book, so you got that challenge. But it just feels like they weren't together enough. But we do have 2 more episodes with them together, and hopefully those episodes will be very strong and finish off this season strongly. So getting back to my overall issue with the season and its pacing. So I complained about the first episode and how the pacing compared to the book. At this point, I'm off book. I'm behind in my reading to where the show is, and also there's a lot, I know even without reading it, there's a lot in the show that wasn't in the book, so it's hard to do a one-to-one comparison. So having nothing to do with the books at all, I just feel that the pacing of the story seems kind of weird. I feel like it's fast, it's slow, it's fast, it's slow. I think we spend too much time in certain places, such as as I mentioned, the Tinkers and all of that. I don't know that, I didn't have any big complaints about the Stefan thing last week, but in retrospect, I don't know if we really needed to spend that much time with that character, especially since that is 100% off book. That character's not in the book at all. So I don't know that we needed to spend that much time in it with that. So it feels like we spend a lot of time on things we don't need to, and then we kind of brush past things we should spend more time on. The month time jump last week was jarring. Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of fast, slow. It's just the pacing. It just feels weird. It's just a little off. But I think that's something that could be very easily corrected in season 2. I think hopefully it's just kind of a, first season kinks that they're trying to work out. I still do really enjoy this show very much overall. And there's a lot of interesting stuff. I didn't really get into the whole politics of the Aes Sedai and with Leandra, and I loved how Moraine gave Leandra, she's like, oh yeah, so I know about that dude you're saying, so fuck you and shut up, or I'm gonna tell everybody. I love that. Still has the same resting bitch face as she always does, but I love that scene. So yeah, there was a lot to like in this episode, but overall, I think I'm most looking forward to the final 2. I want to really see how they're gonna wrap up the story now that the characters are now off to the eye of the world. And what's the deal with Matt staying behind? What was that all about? He was joking oh, is it too late to turn around? And then he just didn't go with them. So is he, is he not going? What's going to happen with him? So I don't know. I guess we'll see. We shall see. Okay, so let me go ahead and give my rating for this episode out of 10. It was, I don't know, it was kind of at one point leaning toward 8, but I think I've talked myself down to a 7. I feel like this is more of a 7. So it was a very interesting episode. I love the character stuff more with Moraine and her secret love interest, Swan, or the Amarylline Seat. I loved all that. But it was really largely a table setting episode, and I did have some nits to pick with it. So I'm going to give it a 7. Solid. But I am hoping that the last two are better. And still, overall, I'm enjoying this season and looking forward to catching up in the books and looking forward to season 2 already. I don't even know when it's coming out. Anyways, thank you for joining me. Let me just jump into the chat real quick, see what Brandon has been saying when I've been talking. He says you understood the Expanse cold open. Yeah, because you read the books of the Expanse. Like, Mark explained that cold open in his review, but I have no way of knowing that. I didn't read the books. So, yeah, let's see. Okay, Allison Fordyce is in the chat too. Says it might be kind of a spoiler, but I've heard about why Matt stayed behind. Well, I know he's recast, if that's what you're talking about. He's recast for season 2, but that doesn't mean he has to stay behind, does it? I don't know. Is that because they had to get the actor off the show at that point? I never actually heard why he was recast. So I don't know. Oh, that is why Allison says in the chat. That is why. Let's see. Brandon says you've talked yourself down to a 7 again. No, I don't think I've ever done that before. I've talked myself up to an 8 before. I don't recall ever talking myself down to a 7. There was, I think it was an episode of Discovery, Brandon, where I talked myself up to an 8. Anyways, thanks for jumping in, Allison. Thanks for joining me, Brandon, and thanks for anyone who is watching this review in the archives. Please join me next week as I review season 1, episode 7. It's probably also going to be a live stream, but hopefully I will get that one out on Thursday night. The thing that slowed me down this week is that I did have a live stream with Darren over on his channel, These Reviews, last night on Hawkeye, and it was really fun, but it also took up some of my time. So that's probably why it took me till the next day to do this. So next week, I hope to have my episode 7 live stream up on Thursday night, and join me for everything else that I do on my channel, including Star Trek Discovery reviews, and this month covering the best and worst of 2021, and I already have uploaded the most overrated show of 2021 video. So check out all of that stuff, and I will see you next time. Good night, everybody. Bye.